difference in languages. We see that Krachim, Yutil Dalad, and Lamet Lametes are in Lashon Kodesh, and the rest are in Yiddish. How do exactly?
It started off in Yiddish because the Rebbe spoke in Yiddish, and the Sichos were always in Yiddish. It started in Yiddish. That's how it went on. First Krachim. A lot of people have complained that Yiddish is very hard for them. The reason I'm more excited is Sichos were in Yiddish, so that people who don't speak Lashon Kodesh should be able to understand. The Frierdiker Sichos are in Yiddish, so the women could understand. People not talking to Chachamim. And that's how it continues. So the Sichos are in Yiddish, but people complain that these Sichos are long Sichos or Chassidish Sichos in Yonim, and if a person doesn't understand Lashon Kodesh, will not understand the Sichos anymore. Especially the Sprach, it's the Sprach of the Sichos are in such a way that every second word is Lashon Kodesh anyway. So people complain, especially in Tzisroel. A lot of the Sichos, a lot of Yidden live in Tzisroel, and for them, in order way they could understand it is to translate it. So what's the purpose of that in Yiddish? So there's a whole discussion so we had a debate. When we started the Chelik, this came to the Yud, which was Toshan Lamed Gimel. That's the whole parsha how that started, but forget about that for a moment. So we were discussing among ourselves, maybe we should start in Lashon Kodesh. Didn't come from the Rebbe at all. Maybe we should start in Lashon Kodesh. And we said we'll send it in. And anyway, we decided. Actually, me personally, I was one that pushed it very hard, that I feel it should be Lashon Kodesh. People look at the Sefer written in Yiddish. People provide it doesn't look at the Sefer. So in order to be a real Sefer, people should see it's a Sefer. So I felt strongly it has to be in Lashon Kodesh. So we decided we'll do it. We gave them the Rebbe was Magia. One time later, there was a Sophic, maybe the Rebbe didn't want it in Lashon Kodesh. So we asked the Rebbe wanted Lashon Kodesh in Yiddish. The Rebbe's answer was, Ein Nafkimine. So that's why we went on, later on when it stopped after Tovshin Lamed Daled, for 1 year started again, it's also the Mareches, they decided, let's make it Yiddish again, and then when it came later, people were still going. So he said, okay, let's start with Yiddish, and the Rebbe didn't mind. The Rebbe, as long as the Sprach is written correctly, I don't need correctly taken, if it's written a typist of language, a signal that the Rebbe wants, he didn't mind. So that's why it depended on Pasha, the people who worked on it, and what the feedback we got from people who learned it, and that's how it worked.
Yeah, were there different people who worked on different volumes?
Right, different people. That's why Bechlal Signan is different. The Signan of the different Krochim depend on different people who work on it. So there are different people who worked on the first volumes and the other volumes and this volume. That's why, and that's what the main thing is. That's why it's different Signan.
Yeah, so each group that worked on that set of Sfarim, they all worked on it, or there was one guy in charge and they all worked on it under him?
No, they all work together. They all work together.
Yeah, and what was the reason that a group had to step down for another group to come in? Why did one group just
this is technicalities. Rabbi Yale worked on the first four, and then when it stopped, he worked on the next till test. And then Rabbi Yale was busy with Sefer Erkim, so he couldn't do so. We came in as a group, and then it was the first Naftalie Charter. The Gedolah, basically Gedolah, plus 3 people worked on it. It was Label Kaplan, Allah Shalom, and myself and Rabbi Schapiro. We worked on it, then he left at Svazer, and Svazer, I left to Miami. He's actually in Miami, I continued working on it. But then Rabbi Alltime came in, and then they stayed, and that's how it was. It turned out from Chelik to Svov till the end. Rabbi Alltime, Label Alltime, and Rabbi Schapiro. Sometimes I was involved also. I mean, in the beginning I was very much involved, but I didn't, so with some sikhs I was closer, but that's how it was. The technicalities changed.
So which years were you involved?
In Sichos, well, when the Rabbi Yale wrote it from the test, I was involved, not mamish deep in the work, but the Rabbi Yale, we talked, a little bit involved. Chelik Yud, Gedolah, was strongly involved. We were the ones that made it. And then later on, I was involved a little bit, but it was mostly Rabbi Schapiro and all time.
We mentioned before that a key part of this whole thing that was moved by the Rebbe. What was the exact process from A to Z of when the Rebbe said it till when you took a pamphlet?
The Rebbe said the Farbrengens could be any time. Could be Toshin Gimel, could be Tzvov, could be Choizer, whatever, any time. We would sit down before when we would work on the Sikha, and try to work weeks ahead, take out, different Hanochas and the Farbrengens, and look through what do we want to make. So we look through and see this one, this one is easier, this one is something which we feel is better to make, but the Rebbe didn't give any heroes what to make. And finally, pinpoint that this sikha we're going to use for people to sit down and work on it, look through all the inyanim, look through all the mafoshim, look through all the inyanim. The Rebbe said, we did the Rebbe speak about it a different time. A lot of times you have a combination of two Farbrengens, because the Rebbe would say the same thing in different Farbrengens. So you look at both of them together and work it out and sit down and put it down and write it and work together. One person would write it, the other one would help them, would put together, but it came out when it was finished, and the finished product, it was given over to a mesagnen, a person to make the signen who was an expert in the way of expressing things, and he would fix the sprach, the language, it should be correct grammatically, it should be correct in the way you put things, and after it was finished, given to the Rebbe. The Rebbe was magiya it, gave it out. After we gave it out, it was given to the printing shop. I'm talking before the computer time. This was given to the printing shop. He would print it up, and print it out on long gellies, he would call them. Those were what they call in English. They used to call them gellies. Then we'd give it to the Rebbe again, and the Rebbe would look it over with magiya a second time. So they get to the printer, and he would then turn it into a pamphlet. And sometimes then there would be hashmota, sofas that I would add later. So next week the pamphlet would say hashmota to the pamphlet of last week, or a sofa. And then when they made the svarim, it would take, let's say, 2 years or a few years in a row and put it into svarim, and all the tikkunim went into its proper place. Later, when it started with the computer, so they started typing it in the beginning. And give it to the Rebbe type, they would right away put it on the computer, it was typed, and then given to the Rebbe was magiya. The last few years, it seems like the Rebbe only was magiya once.
Did the Rebbe ever hint which sikha you should use for that parsha?
Almost never. I just know of one time when they made parshas for Pirkei Avos, or something, those weeks, instead of making on the parsha, they make the Pirkei Avos. So if I remember correctly, what it was is they made up every week on the Peirik of the week, on the mission of that Peirik, and then they made one, I think I called this Yisrael for the Kohen Gadol. So the Rebbe was ma'arer that next time you should make one out of Chaim HaKash. Or Faket, it was our Chaim that decided to make a Kol Yisrael. But like this, the Rebbe came out never, just very few times, at least I remember, because in the later years I don't know from every detail, that the Rebbe was ma'arer. I know once he wrote, why did you choose such a hard sikha? Once he wrote, Lomo machnisim minyonim misubochim ke'elu. Why are you making such complicated things? That's once. Once there was a sikha given in, and the Rebbe said that's not proper. It was not a subject that he didn't want that should be so there. But like this, out of all these drachim, mamates drachim, kimat, nothing. Never. Kimat never. Whatever you give him, that's what he's going to do.
Yeah, you mentioned before that sometimes people used to call in with questions, and that would change after coming sikha. Anybody can call, or just the Choizer would call?
You can call where?
The Rebbe.
No, it wasn't called to the Rebbe. No, people wrote to the Rebbe, probably they wrote. No, but all these questions came to us. Not to the Rebbe.
Oh, it was to you.
Yeah, people said that, why are you doing this? They didn't come to the Rebbe. Maybe to the Rebbe, we don't know about it.
So you say when the Rebbe's Magiya, the Likutei Sichos, what exactly did he do? He wrote whole paragraphs, he took out, changed words?
He did whatever he wanted. In other words, sometimes he would change words, sometimes he would add a big order, sometimes he would add paragraphs in the pnim, he would change around, he would do anything. The Rebbe put in a lot of time into the Sichos. Sometimes up to, can't imagine, 10 hours a week. And there's time, every moment there is precious. But 10 hours. Sometimes, and he would put in, once, Young Klein told me once that the Rebbe was Magiya Sichos, the second, I think second, I'm not sure. He went into the Rebbe's room, and the Rebbe was in the middle of Magiya Sichos, and as he walked in, the Rebbe just closed it and said, here, give it to them. Because if not, ain't no davar so. So he said, ain't no davar, because the Rebbe could add, and add, and add. So he said, ain't no davar, but he put in a lot of hours, a lot of them. In other words, if people wonder how much of the Rebbe is in it, besides that, the Rebbe Sichos and it's everything the Rebbe said is true. Besides that, it's Poshet. He put in many, many hours in this. This is what I got interessant. The Rebbe would use this also as a base note if you wanted to get the message. Once I remember we wrote the Sikha, and the Sikha was It had it in the Inyan of Tznius, mentioned, the Inyan of Tznius was mentioned there. So the Rebbe, and it's a Sicha Pasha Bolak, so it's summertime. So the Rebbe wrote on this Inyan that here is the Hakana Mokim Ayam in the Lashon, and he took it up with the Sicha Gimel to the Me'erev and the Gay and the Inyan of Tznius, especially summertime, and especially people who go out of the city. And some people think, people shouldn't say Echte v'oshuv kasher oshuv v'yira. Use the Lashon. Echte v'oshuv when I come back to the city, the word oshuv. And then the Rebbe, when he wrote this little note to it. He said, make this, it should be patent, it should be obvious. Or as a special part at the end of the Sikha, like a special part, or make a ha'ara out of it with big words. We should choose, and we chose to do it. Look at the Sikha, you'll see. We chose to make in the Sikha itself a ha'ara in bold letters, which makes it up as very strange, so people should see it.
Which Chelik is that?
Chelik in Gimel Parshas Bo. Check it out, we'll see.